Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hello, readers. It's Leslie with the She Reads Romance Books podcast, and it is time to queue up your to-be-read list because in today's episode, I am sharing my top 10 most anticipated new romance book releases dropping this March 2025 that you don't want to miss. You know that it's my mission here at She Reads Romance Books to help my fellow romance book lovers find the best books worth reading because there is just so much, or I should say there's only so much time and money in the world. So every month I share my most anticipated new releases to save you time from weeding through all of the releases so you know exactly what you should be keeping your eye out for and reading this coming month. Now, March appears to be the month for small town romance books as well as some new hockey romances, as there are quite a few of both of those on this month's list. So if you are a fan of those romance categories, you are definitely in for a treat. As a reminder, for even more books to add to your reading list, check out my upcoming releases page for even more releases for March as well as the months to come in 2025. And you can always refer back to my previous monthly release book posts on shereadsromance.com and the podcast episodes to fill up your TBR list even more. Now, with a few days left in February, don't forget that this month for the She Reads Romance Book Reading Challenge, we are reading one erotic romance book. If you haven't picked one out yet, you can take a listen to my last episode on the best steamy romance books or my episode on the best erotic romance books for the virgin reader. I give some really good recommendations in both of those episodes. But if you are listening to this when it first releases, we are talking tonight with Hannah Bonham Young in the She Reads Romance Books Book Club, which is going to be, honestly, a really fabulous author Q&A session on Zoom to talk about her latest release, Out of the Woods. I loved this book about a married couple who need sort of a bit of therapy to get them out of their rut, which they find on a week-long trip in the woods. So you can go to shereadsromancebooks.com/book club to join today so you don't miss it. Lastly, before I get to my list, I want to remind you that you can leave me a 30-second or less message with my link on SpeakPipe, either asking me a question, asking for a recommendation, or even sharing your own recommendation if you'd like. I'll include it on an upcoming episode and share my thoughts or answers. So if you'd like to say hi or ask a question, then you can use the link in the show notes for that. Okay, now we are going to move on to my list of top 10 most anticipated new romance books releasing in March 2025, starting with Unlikely Story by Ali Rosen, which releases March 1st, 2025, and here is what it is about. As a relationship therapist, Nora helps patients explore their feelings honestly, but she's hiding an embarrassing relationship secret of her own. She's in love with someone she's never even met. Jay edits the advice column Nora's been writing anonymously for the last 7 years. He's in London, she's in New York, and they communicate solely through shared files. When he confides that his girlfriend's out of the picture and her boss asks her to come to London, Nora takes both as a sign. But that's not the only thing on her mind. A client's ex-boyfriend just moved into her co-op directly beneath her. Eli blames Nora for his breakup and seems determined to make her life miserable, gleefully planning a noisy renovation. Yet, despite all his bluster, Nora eventually starts to see the softness behind Eli's brusque, charming exterior. And after a slip-up reveals a startling secret, Nora wonders whether someone can be two things at once. So, in case you didn't know this, this is one of the Amazon First Read selections for February 2025. And it sounds, I think, just super cute. If you don't know what Amazon First Reads is, basically there are a few book selections that you can read for free if you are a Prime member and or purchase for $1.99 anytime that month. There are actually quite a few romance offerings this month, so definitely check it out and sign up for their newsletter so you know what future first read selections are. But as for Unlikely Story, I love a good, didn't know it was you case of unknown identity, which it sounds kind of like this one has, and I'm like super for it. I also love that the heroine is a relationship therapist, so I hope we get some examples of the advice that she shares in her column. I think that would be like really super fun to read. I also, love books about falling in love anonymously, so much so that I did 2 podcast episodes on this topic with some of my favorite books to share. So if you love this theme too, definitely check out those earlier episodes of the podcast. I've actually yet to read an Ali Rosen book, so this might be the month to pop that cherry for me. All right, next on my list of most anticipated new romance book releases for March is Wild Side by Elsie Silver, which is book 3 of her Rose Hill series. It is a marriage of convenience romance that releases on March 4th, and here is what it is about. I'd always dreamed of my wedding day, but not like this, not looking into the eyes of the man who betrayed me. But when my nephew's guardianship is contested, I decide I'll do whatever it takes to keep him in Rose Hill, even if it means marrying the enemy. Reese Dupree, a man who is secretive, broody, and completely infuriating, a man whose work takes him away for weeks on end and brings him back covered in mysterious bruises, ones he won't talk about. In fact, we barely talk at all. Which would be fine, except when he's not talking, he's staring, and the way he looks at me is borderline indecent. The tension between us has always been palpable, but living under the same roof is a dangerous temptation. I swore I would never forgive him, but that was before I knew the man behind the mask, the one who's fierce and protective, the one who's gentle and patient, the one who shows up for us when we need him most. He's not at all who I thought he was, and that makes hating my husband so much harder, and loving him just a little too easy. Oh my gosh, I am beyond excited to read this new release from Elsie because I love a broody hero, and that is Reese to a T, which I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I never am sure with that spelling. I fell for this man in just a few scenes in Wild Love, which is the first book of the series, and have been counting the minutes to learn more about this tattooed hottie of few words. I actually fell for Tabby, the heroine, too, in her fierceness and devotion to her nephew. She's a woman juggling a lot, so she's absolutely deserving of a good man and a happily ever after. So I am just super excited to read this book. I actually haven't read book 2 yet, so I may have to quickly read that one before diving into Wildside. But then again, I may just be too eager for this one and jump in, but we'll see. But I think they're all on Kindle Unlimited, which is really great and so easy to binge all 3 if you want when it comes out. All right, before my next recommendation, I also wanted to remind you that the perfect place to keep track of all of these must-read romance books is in my romance book reading journal. This is a reading planner, tracker, and journal all in one, created exclusively for the romance book reader. It comes in hardcover or paperback, which you can order from Amazon, but it's also available as a printable, which means you can print as many of the pages as often as you want, especially if you want pages like a little bit bigger, as like an 8.5 by 11 size for your reading journal needs. And that you can purchase just right from my website. This reading journal has monthly and yearly reading trackers, of course, a TBR list or 2 for new releases you want to read. Plus, it has some really fun lists for capturing your favorite book boyfriends, your favorite series, your favorite books by a ton of different romance tropes. So a lot to love about my romance book reading journal. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com and click the link at the top to purchase, or you can click the link in the show notes so that you can get your copy today. All right, the next new romance book release that you can write on your TBR list in your romance book reading journal that I am super excited to read this March 2025 is The Shots You Take by Rachel Reed. This is her new second chance hockey romance that releases on March 4th, and here is what it is about. After moving back to his hometown 10 years ago, Riley Tuck thought he had left his Major League Hockey career and his broken heart far behind. But when an unexpected tragedy strikes, it brings ex-teammate and former best friend with benefits Adam Shepard back into his life. Coming to the small town of Avery River, Nova Scotia might have been a mistake. Adam's not sure he'll ever win back Riley's trust after the way they left things, and the attention he's getting as a huge hockey star isn't exactly helping. Yet the chemistry that crackles between them is undeniable even now. As Adam helps Riley navigate his grief, long-buried feelings start to resurface. But they'll have to square off with their complicated past if they're going to have a real shot at a new beginning. Okay, so ever since reading Heated Rivalry, one of my all-time favorite enemies to lovers romance books, I have been a fan of Rachel Reed and her hockey romance books. So, of course, I am going to read this new release for my hockey fix. I also love that there seems to be kind of more to the story since these two former teammates have a past. So I hope it's also a really great second chance romance as well. Her last hockey romance wasn't super steamy, or at least not as steamy as Heated Rivalry. So I'm not sure where this one will kind of land on the spicy spectrum, but I am definitely interested to find out. Okay, another hockey romance that I am looking forward to reading this March is The Last Guy on Earth by Sarina Bowen. It also releases on March 4th, and here is what it is about. One cold December day, two men are blindsided by a hockey trade. One is the most decorated goalie in the league, while the other one is the youngest coach in the majors. Jethro Hale is the last player Coach Clay Powers wants to see on his roster, but the GM pulls a fast one, and it's not like he can even explain why. Nobody knows about their love affair 15 years ago. Cue the all-star awkwardness, the painful memories, and the reawakening of deep feelings on both sides. Unfortunately, their attraction still burns brightly, but it can never be. A player and a coach, the scandal would overshadow the team's banner year. If only they could resist each other. So, oh my goodness. Okay, this is a coach-player hockey romance from Sarina Bowen. Yes, please, people. I always love her hockey romance books, but I am so digging that this is a forbidden second chance romance that neither character really sees coming. I cannot wait to see how it all unfolds, and it's honestly, as I think about it, really been a hot minute since I read a new book by Sarina. So I'm really, really hoping that it delivers and meets my expectations. So another really exciting hockey romance that I cannot wait to read in March. Next on my list of must-read romance books for March 2025, sorry if I'm like flying through these, but they're just too exciting to talk about, is Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. This is a book that focuses on grief and utilizes a forced proximity situation to bring the main characters together. It too releases on March 4th, and here is what it is about. Lenny's a bit of a mess at the moment. Ever since cancer stole away her best friend, she has been completely lost. She's avoiding her concerned parents, the apartment she shared with her best friend, and the ever-laminated Live Again list of things she's promised to do to survive her grief. But maybe if she acts like she has it all together, no one will notice she's falling apart. The only gigs she can handle right now are temporary babysitting jobs, and she just landed a great one, helping overworked single mom Reese and her precocious daughter Ainsley. The only catch, Ainsley's uncle Miles always seems to be around and is kind of a walking version of the grumpy cat meme. Worse, he seems to be able to see right through her. Surprisingly, Miles knows a lot about grief and he offers Lenny a proposition. He'll help her complete everything on her live again list if she'll help him connect with Ainsley and overcome his complicated relationship with Reese. Lenny doubts anything can fill the void her best friend has left behind, but between late night ferry rides, midnight ramen, and a well-placed shoulder whenever she needs it, Miles just won't stop showing up for her. Turns out sometimes your life has to end to find your new beginning. This book, gosh, totally made my list, not only because I'm intrigued by the storyline, but also because I know a number of She Reads Romance Books book club members love Cara Bastone, so I felt like it's high time that I read one of her books, and this new release looks to be the perfect way to jump right in. I adore how Miles and Lenny sort of pair up to help each other, but come to really sort of find each other and fall in love in the process. Grief, I think, can be a tough topic to deal with in romance, but I've loved pretty much all the books that have done it so far, and I'm totally game, I think, to see how it plays out in this one. I think it's going to be really, really great. Okay, the next new release I already read, so I can tell you from firsthand knowledge that you definitely want to read it, and March is the perfect month to do so. The book is Go Luck Yourself by Sarah Rosh, her latest holiday fantasy romance that will release on March 11th. And here is what it is about. Someone has been stealing Christmas's joy, and there's only one clue to the culprit, a single shamrock. With Cole busy restructuring Christmas and their dad now having a full midlife crisis in the Caribbean, Chris volunteers to investigate St. Patrick's Day. His cover, an ambassador from Christmas to foster goodwill. What could go wrong? Everything, it seems, because Prince Lachlan Patrick, Crown Prince of St. Patrick's Day, happens to be the mysterious student that Chris has been in a small war with at Cambridge. They attempt to play nice for the tabloids, but Chris can't get through one conversation without wanting to smash Locke's face in. He's infuriating, stubborn, loud, obstinate, hot. Wait, hot? Chris might be in some trouble, especially when it turns out that the mystery behind Christmas's stolen magic isn't as simple as an outright theft. But why would a holiday that Christmas has never had contact with, one that's always been the very basis of carefree, want to steal joy? Can a spare prince even hope to unravel all this, or will Chris lose something way more vulnerable than his holiday's resources, like his heart? Okay, so to me, I'm just going to say that Sarah Rosh can just keep cranking out the books in her Royals and Romance series. I would just be a happy camper because so far her first two have just been amazing. This is honestly the perfect St. Patrick's Day romance that is an opposites attract, enemies to lovers romance that just kind of hits you with all the feels. I adored Lachlan's gruff exterior, but truly sweet heart that he hides so well. Chris was definitely due for his happily ever after since the Nightmare Before Christmas, and it was so lovely. I think it can be read as a standalone if you didn't read the first book in the series, but I would honestly recommend that you do read it just so you have a better understanding of Chris's headspace, but also sort of what's going on in the Christmas world to be sort of understanding like why they care about joy being, siphoned off and that kind of thing. You can definitely check out my full book review, which is already up on shereadsromancebooks.com if you want to learn more about Go Luck Yourself. But just know that you absolutely should read it this March. Okay, next on my list of most anticipated new romance book releases for March 2025 is Story of My Life by Lucy Score, which is her new small town romance that kicks off a brand new series. It releases March 11th as well, and here is what it is about. Hazel Hart was a successful romance novelist until a breakup drives her straight into writer's block. Having failed and failed some more to deliver her new manuscript, she's hiding from the world behind a wall of old takeout containers until her publisher lays down the law. If she misses her next deadline, it's the end. Desperate for inspiration, Hazel impulse buys a historic home online and flees Manhattan to tiny Story Lake, Pennsylvania. Upon her dramatic arrival, which seems to be the case for a lot of Lucy's books, involving an incident with a bald eagle, she discovers the charm of her new home may have been slightly exaggerated. The house is a wreck and the town is struggling after their biggest employer shut down. Also, since her raccoon-infested home came with a seat on the town council, our introverted heroine is stuck with a front row seat to all the small town shenanigans. But Hazel isn't worried, not since all 6 feet 3 inches of grouchy contractor Campbell Bishop slapped a bandage on her forehead and unintentionally inspired the heck out of her. There's only one thing to do. Hire Cam and his equally gorgeous brothers to renovate her new spider museum, house. Okay, 2 things. A fake date for research purposes will really put her work in progress on track. Before Hazel knows it, she's writing a romance novel and living one. At least until the drywall dust settles, the town she's falling in love with faces bankruptcy, and Growly Cam remembers why he can't live happily ever after. So if you're like me, who fell hard and fast for Lucy's Knock 'em Out series, then this absolutely must be on your must-read list. I love the worlds that she creates in her small-town romances, and I especially love when they involve a grumpy hero to swoon over. Sounds definitely like the first book of Knock 'em Out. The heroine, swoops into town. The grumpy hero about town takes care of her. There's just so much to love already about this book. I think it's going to be a big release. I can just tell. So just go ahead, pre-order it. Read Story of My Life this March. Okay. Next up, also releasing on March 11th, is the new release Fan Service by Rosie Danan, which is a paranormal romance about a werewolf. And you know how much I love a good werewolf. So here is what this new release is about. The only place small-town outcast Alex Lawson fits in is the online fan forum she built for the Arcane Files, a long-running werewolf detective show. Her dedication to archiving fictional supernatural lore made her internet famous, even if she harbors a secret disdain for the show's star, Devin Ashwood. Never meet your heroes, sometimes they turn out to be the worst. Ever since his show went off the air, Devin and his career have spiraled, but waking up naked in the woods outside his LA home with no memory of the night before is a new low. It must have been a coincidence that the once-in-a-century wolf blood moon crested last night. The claws, fangs, and howling are a little more difficult to explain away. Desperate for answers, Devin finds Alex, the closest thing to an expert that exists. If only he could convince her to stop hating his guts long enough to help. Once he makes her an offer she can't refuse, these reluctant allies lower their guards, trying to wrangle his inner beast. Unfortunately, getting up close and personal quickly comes back to bite them. So this sounds just super, super cute and fun. I'm completely down for reading a new paranormal romance. I think I can identify with Alex so much in her passion to document everything from a show that she's obsessed with. I've done that in my younger years. I think it will be hilarious for her to realize that she's Devin's only hope once his fangs come out. I'm always up for a new werewolf romance, and Rosie is delivering, I think, just the ticket with this new romance this March. So I'm hoping my request up on NetGalley goes through because I really want to sink my teeth into this one ASAP, so I will keep you posted. Next on my list is yet another new hockey romance book for the month of March. Sorry, not sorry. It is Save Your Breath by Candy Steiner, which is book 4 of her Kings of the Ice series. It releases on March 20th, and here is what it is about. This just in, hockey bad boy and pop star extraordinaire engaged. That was the headline we'd wanted if only I'd known the cost to get it. Alexander Sutter has been my best friend since high school and the only man who's ever been able to truly get under my skin. With his reputation for trouble and a smirk that could melt ice, he's also the NHL's favorite bad boy. When my publicist's plan to fix my image collides with his need to clean up his own, we find ourselves in a fake engagement that feels too real from the start. Now I'm releasing my new album, putting on a show for the paparazzi I usually try to dodge, and falling too fast for a man who never falls for anyone. Every stolen glance, every heated touch blurs the lines between us until I'm wondering where the lies end and the truth begins. And when a hurricane traps us together in his high-rise condo, all my carefully built walls collapse, and resisting the pull between us becomes a losing game. Suddenly, the stakes are higher than just headlines, and the risks feel more personal than ever. But as our past resurfaces and old feelings reignite, I realize the biggest risk isn't losing my career, it's losing my heart to the one person I thought would never be mine. As you can see and hear, I guess, Candy is throwing in so many of my favorite romance tropes in this hockey romance. I'm a sucker for a good fake relationship story, especially one that leads to a friends to lovers romance. But the forced proximity, I think, will be the icing on the cake for this new romance. Here's hoping that this one is available to read in Kindle Unlimited. I can't tell yet from the Amazon listing right now, but most of her books are. So if this one is, you might just want to go ahead and binge read the entire series up until this book, because it will be so worth it if you are a hockey romance fan like I am. Okay, and lastly, the 10th, or I should just say it's not 1 through 10 really, but the last new romance book release that caught my eye for March is on my most anticipated books of 2025 list, and that is Just Our Luck by Denise Williams, which releases March 25th to round out the month, and here is what it is about. Sybil Sweet has always been lucky, but lately she can't catch a break. After years of bouncing from job to job in search of something that feels right and from man to man in search of something special, Sybil is worried that she's the directionless, floundering daughter her family thinks she is. All she really wants now is a little financial stability and carb comfort. Lucky for her, she's got just enough in the bank to buy a lottery ticket, and the late-night donut store is open. Kieran Anderson put his dreams of becoming a doctor on hold to take over running his family's bakery, and after fighting a losing battle to save the place, he's exhausted, broke, and no closer to getting back to school. But when a whirlwind of a woman sweeps in late one night, flirty energy gives way to more until she runs out the next morning, leaving behind her winning a lottery ticket. Lucky for Kieran, his attempt to return the ticket looks like a grand romantic gesture and goes viral, sending sales through the roof. In an effort to keep the store afloat and to convince Sybil's family she can make good relationship choices, they agreed to fake a relationship for 3 months. Even when, with hundreds of millions of dollars, finding each other might end up being the sweetest bit of luck for both of them. First off, I wanted to say how much I love the cover of this new romance book. The pink of it just pops, and the embrace of these characters is just super, super cute. I adore it, and I also love how this focuses on a heroine who's not really doing great, but wins the freaking lottery. It, too, is another fake relationship romance, which I think is another theme of the month, it seems. And it's definitely one of my top 3 romance tropes, so yay. Definitely looking forward to diving into this one, which I have queued up and ready to go on my Kindle. So I'm really excited about this one by Denise Williams. So that wraps up this episode of my recommendations for the new romance books releasing in March that you should not miss amongst all the other noise. It's so easy to forget what you want to read, so don't forget to get the Romance Book Reading Journal, as I said, or you can also snag my free reading log bookmark that you can print out each month and write down all 10 of my recommendations, so you never forget what you might want to read next. It's easy peasy. Just go to shereadsromancebooks.com and click on the freebies link in the menu bar, and you'll see where you can download that bookmark for free. Lastly, if you have not yet left a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, oh my gosh, I would so appreciate it and love it if you did so today to give me and the show some love. It takes just a minute, but the impact is huge. Thank you, thank you, thank you in advance. And as always, until next time, happy reading, because you know it, life is better with a love story. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a Book Boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.